To the third day of Colloquium. So for today agenda, I would like to invite Dr. Shadi for her presentation today. Just to be sure, have all of you gotten the journal, Green Supply Chain? Yeah? All right.
Is it okay? Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I put my this one here. Okay. Hello, everyone. Very good morning. Thanks for coming. I supposed to start the presentation earlier, but I wait a little bit more for everyone to come here. First, I want to ask how many of you have published some papers from your chapter's thesis? Do you publish any paper? If you are a PhD student? No, I don't ask lecturers. Okay. 3, 4 papers. It's very good. Okay, so it seems that also the rest students do not publish any paper yet. Okay, today's workshop is very helpful in order to give you some information about how to publish papers. Because there is a wrong perception among students. They think that, okay, if they want to publish the paper, they should complete and finish their thesis first, then they can publish the paper. Actually, it's not true. You can publish paper from chapter 2 of your thesis, from chapter 3, and even if you have 4 or 5 objectives, you can publish at least 2 or 3 papers from your objectives. Okay. What do you understand from this photo? Another wrong perception among a student is that if you want to publish paper, you should work very hard. But you don't need to work hardly. You need to work wisely. So like pushing that ball. If you know how to extract the required information from your thesis, then you can easily publish the paper. Okay? And why do we need to publish a paper? Because some students mention, I just want to complete my PhD thesis, and after going through a successful viva, so what is the point of publishing the paper? Based on the code of the editor of Water Science and Technology, if your research is not published, it means that your research does not exist. So imagine after you finish your thesis and you submit to the library, then how you can talk about your expertise or your research interests later on. So it's very important. And publishing paper always is a headache for postgraduate students. Okay, always they are very depressed and upset about how to publish the paper. Am I right? Why? Why publishing paper is important? Why do you think that we should publish paper before going for thesis submission? The first thing is publishing paper, improve your self-confidence. Imagine, for example, before going to Viva, if you publish one paper from chapter 2, and also some papers from your methodology and results. So you have very good self-confidence when you go for Viva, because you know that your research, your methodology, your result is good enough. That's why it is published. And then later on, you can receive a positive response from examiners. And also it is a credibility of your research. So imagine that how it can be helpful for you. And also, you can get a scholarship in the middle of your PhD study. If you publish some considerable papers, then you can get a scholarship because it shows that you are a very hardworking student. And also, it can enhance career prospect. As I told you, when you want to finish your PhD, if you want to work as a lecturer in the future, the first thing that will be asked by the president or the dean of the university is about the number of publications. So it means that if you don't have enough publication, so later on maybe you will not have many chances to work as a lecturer in the university. So now, still why the student do not publish the paper? All of you here, they know about the benefits of publishing paper, right? So why still there is a problem and weaknesses in paper publication? What is the reason? Do you have any idea? If you are in second year of your PhD study, you should have, at least have one published paper. For the first semester and second semester is okay because you are still searching, you are still new. One of the reasons is lack of time. Actually, this is the most common reasons of not publishing among students. But it doesn't mean that these reasons are acceptable. All of them are not acceptable for supervisors and lecturers in the university. Lack of time. So as a PhD student, you should know how to manage your time in order to complete your PhD thesis together with publishing papers. The second one, data is not good enough for publication. Some students, they think that maybe they don't have enough attractive data or complete data for publishing paper. But you can publish paper even with demographic information, even with descriptive statistics. No need to complete all results. The third reason, it is difficult to publish in my area. Some students, they study in education or supply chain, or they think that, okay, maybe there are not many journals in my area, or maybe it is not easy to publish. But actually, it is not true. Even if you don't have many journals in your area, but still, there is a chance to publish. Language is not good enough for writing paper. Am I right? This is but you know that how many of you here are foreigner students? English is not the first language of all of you. Am I right? So most of PhD students, they speak with another language as the first language, and English speaking is the second language. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't write any paper. You can write paper in the way of simple English writing, and you can get help from professional students in English speaking or in English writing or some experts in order to improve the quality of English writing of your paper. Limited resources. Actually, limited resources is not a good excuse. It means that you have some weaknesses in searching a good resources, because the resources are available everywhere. But sometimes the students, they don't know how to search to find suitable resources. The last one is fear of rejection by journal editor. Actually, no need to have a fear of rejection. Even this paper with many errors received major revision. Sometimes the editor, if your subject is interesting for editors of the journal, they accept your paper, but they give you major revision. So it means that you still have chances to publish that paper, but you need to improve the quality of the paper. So let's try. Let's try first, and then after that, see what is the feedback. If you receive, okay, rejection is not bad. You can also improve and change. But receiving rejection before going to Viva, it's much more better after getting rejection in the Viva session. Am I right? Okay. Okay. Another thing which is very important about types of journal paper. You know that we have different types of journal paper. Don't think that you should complete all methodology, results, and finding, then you can write a paper. We have like short communication, viewpoint, or technical notes. And also we have review article. And also full-length article. So it means that you can write a review article with your chapter 2 of the thesis. because review article is just based on literature reviews. You can write a short communication or viewpoint technical note based on your chapter 1 by some modification, by some improvement. Okay, let's go to full-length article. Okay, this is the majority of research articles published fall into this category, full-length article. And you know that full-length article contain a comprehensive investigation. Usually it is very lengthy because it has 7,000 to 9,000 words. And a full-length article divided into introduction, methods, results, and discussion and conclusion. Okay? So full-length article is very famous or very common among different types of journal papers. The second one is short communication or technical note. If you have any question, okay, after my speech, after my presentation, we will discuss. We have more Q&A session, okay? So this is short communication. Usually these are shorter research articles that are not as comprehensive in a scope as full-length research article. Contain information that makes a significant contribution to the literatures, and it is not very lengthy. Just 2 to 4 pages is good enough for writing this paper. And the number of words should be less than 3,000 words. Okay, so it means that with your chapter 1, because in your chapter 1, you talk about the significance of your study, you highlight your problem statement, you highlight the contribution of your work, so you can write a good technical note as a paper, right? And then we have review article. Most of you read many literature review, am I right? So, but if you know how to merge and how to relate these articles in order to find a meaningful result or a concept, then you can write a very valuable review paper. But be careful, for writing review paper, you should have 70 to 200 references. So most of you, I'm sure that you have many references in chapter 2, right? And I saw before that the submitted thesis, PhD thesis to me, contain like 100 references for chapter 2. And there are lots of tick chapter 2 in their thesis. So it means that you can publish the paper easily as a review article. Okay, now we go through manuscript structure. What are the structures of the paper? So here I bring a different manuscript structure, okay? So these are the main structure. Even for your thesis, you need to follow this structure. First, we have title of the manuscript. You know that the title is the most important part of your paper. Why? Because it is a selling point of your paper. Imagine if your title is informative, is attractive, is innovative for editor, for sure the editor wants to read your paper. But if your title is very simple and is the repetition of other papers, so what is the point? Why the editor need to spend time or reviewer spend time for reading your paper? So the title is important. How we can write a good title? The title is the main advertisement of your article. You should identify the main issue for writing your title. And then also, title shouldn't contain any abbreviation. It should be accurate, specific, and complete. And long title, usually it's not advised. And it's very important to attract reader attention. So all of you have a paper, right? Okay, look at the title of the paper. So it is a good example of title. Green Supply Chain Management, Environmental Collaboration and Sustainability Performance. You see, it's very informative, and it contains something new, green supply chain management, sustainability performance, and it shows some novelty in the title, right? Okay, after that, we need to write abstract. You know that abstract also is another selling point of your paper. Because after you submit your paper to a journal, editor first read your abstract. If they see that your abstract cover main findings, contribution, significance of the paper, then they go through the rest of your paper. Otherwise, they do not want to waste their time for reading the whole papers. Okay? So it should be short and precise. Importance and aim of the paper should highlight in the abstract. It is summary of the work. You should highlight the most significant results. Okay? Because you have many results, but one of your results are very significant. Am I right? So usually, in abstract, we do not put any references. We don't put any figures, no tables. And your abstract is selling point. And sometimes I see that students, they are not patient enough to write a good abstract. But you should know it's very important part of your paper. It can be 200 words. 200 words is good enough for writing an abstract. Not very lengthy abstract. Okay, if you look at your paper, there is an abstract, right, in your paper. So you see that this is a good example of abstract. In abstract, they have contribution. Like more importantly, green supply chain management can contribute to sustainability performance. This is the contribution. Also, they talk about the significance or the purpose of this research. And here also they talk about importance. Okay, for example, the research finding will be particularly important for manufacturing companies. All of these items are highlighted in abstract. This is just, that very short abstract, but they highlighted important points. After that, we have keywords. Keywords shouldn't be more than 5 words. You see that? Here is the example of keywords. You know that there are some common words with title in the keyword. So the keyword should reflect the subject matter of the manuscript, right? Most of the keywords may already be present in the title. After keyword, we have introduction, right? Introduction also is very important. And most of the students, that, for example, sometimes you are not very clear about formulation of objective. You know that you can find the objective or aim of the study in the last paragraph of introduction, as same as also abstract. If you read the abstract of the paper and read introduction carefully, you can get many ideas in order to formulate your research objectives. So the introduction serves as an orientation of readers. Introduction section should contain review of up-to-date literatures. Literatures is very important to be updated. Please forget about literatures from 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 20 years ago. Because you know that the technology has changed a lot, and we have lots of improvements since 20 years ago. So what is the point you want to mention about, if you use the citation 3 or 4 from 20 years ago, is good enough. No need to write more. This section also should explain the novelty of work. Again, the significance and the novelty of work need to be highlighted in introduction. Also in introduction, you need to discuss about objective and also significance of your work. So the introduction of papers are very informative. Okay, some students that they have always confusion about how to write introduction, right? Sometimes the introduction of the students are very general when they write a paper. Sometimes it's very lengthy without going to the point, main points. Here there is a good guideline for writing your introduction. Okay, there are lots of guidelines in different books, but you can follow one of them in writing the introduction for your paper. Stage 1, okay, you need to talk about general statement. General statement of the area of the research. Nowadays, we live in advanced technological world that we need, for example, internet play important role. Industrialization has improved, some general statement. After that, you need to talk about more specific statement about the aspects of the problem already studied by other researchers. right? For stage 2, you need to talk about the problems that arise by other literatures, by other researchers. Stage 3, statements that indicate the need for more investigation. Now we have this problem, but still there is existing problem. That's why I am, as a researcher, as an author, I want to write this research paper. And stage 4, very specific statement giving the purpose or contribution of the writer study. Okay, here is general statement. If you look in the first paragraph of introduction in the paper, you will see it's a general statement. Business activities can be a significant threat to the environment in terms of carbon emissions. This is general statement. Okay? After that, in another paragraph of introduction, you see that other literatures about the aspect of a specific area, like for example, Rao or Sarkis, provide further evidences that an increasing number of companies are adopting collaboration of environmental practices. This is step 2. Okay. Stage 3, the need for more investigation. If you see in the introduction also, they talk about an increasing concern. So, an awareness. That's why we still need to have more investigation, because still there is a demand or there is an existing concern. Okay? And stage 4, the purpose of writer study. Therefore, the writer decides to study about green supply chain management. Okay? So, you can analyze all these stages in your paper. Okay. Writing literature review. What do you understand from this photo? I know all of you, as a PhD student, downloaded many papers, you read many papers, but if you don't know how to use these resources in a meaningful way, it doesn't lead your paper to be published. It doesn't matter how many resources you have, but if you don't know how to use the resources, still it's not good enough. Okay? So literature review should describe the relationship of each work to others. Literature review should identify new ways to interpret her research. And also it should reveal any gaps that exist in literatures. Okay? So it's very important, gaps. New ways to interpret. You should also, if you read more papers, okay, you understand how to interpret, how to connect the findings of many literatures. Okay, examples, how can I examples? For example, we have a literature from one paper, okay, and also another paragraph from another paper, okay. But if we read the literature from one paper, you see that the way how they connect other previous studies, you see that the way that they write is very professional, it's very meaningful, right? Okay, another one is conceptualizations. You know that all of you are familiar with conceptual framework or theoretical framework. So it's very important to have theoretical framework. It means that you should have any theory or the concept of the variables, the meaning of the variables. In the paper, you see that you have example of conceptual framework, part 2, proposed framework. It's about green supply chain management. So in this figure, you will understand the concepts and variables that contribute to green supply chain management. Even if your field is not green supply chain management, okay, but by looking at this complete conceptual framework, you can understand the connection between important variables. And you know methodology. The methodology should explain clearly what kind of method that you want to use. The method for, or the technique for sampling, for, data collection, everything also, same with your thesis, you should also provide clear explanation. And also analysis. You need to analyze, right, in order to find out about results. Also, the explanation should be clearly stated in the paper. if you miss the analysis, explanation, or methodology, so it means that your paper is not complete. Okay, results and discussion. Result and discussion is the most important part of the manuscript because you are presenting the most critical analysis, right? The critical finding. But the way that you present is very important. You cannot easily just write. You should make it attractive for readers. Use more figures. Use your results, present your results in the table format, in the chart format. Okay, so if you just make it very simple results, even if your findings are very significant, but what is the point? It's not attractive for readers. Imagine, for example, you find one paper with 20 pages, but if it doesn't have any tables or any figures, you feel tired, right? You will feel bored. So explain the meaning of the finding and why the findings are important. You know that most of the items that we need to consider for writing our paper also is common with writing our thesis, right? Because it's the standard procedure and format. So after you have the result, but presentation of results is not good enough. You should provide justification. Why do you achieve this result? And then if the result is, for example, good enough or not very significant, what is the reason? Your justification is the contribution or the value that you can add to the paper. Relate the findings to those of similar studies. And then after that, we have conclusion and implication. Okay, so in conclusion also is important. The conclusion should also consistent with objectives. It's very important to be consistent with objectives. You need also to state the practical contribution of the study in conclusion part. Describe very important points and findings of the work and highlight the achievement. Okay, so this is very good points for you. If you want to write your PhD proposal, or if you want to complete your chapter 3 or chapter 4, you can easily find all of this item from conclusion and implication of papers. Sometimes you don't have enough time, right, to go through the whole paper and read it line by line. If you go through conclusion and implication, you can achieve very good and useful information. Okay, acknowledgement. Maybe there are some people who helps you, but they are not helping you in writing the paper as a co-author. Besides co-authors, there are some students that give you some idea. Or you go to the, for example, to your school and find one lecturer and ask the lecturer some idea, and that lecturer give you very positive feedback. Or maybe there's some students help you in improvement of your, for example, English writing of your paper. So all of them, you can acknowledge their name if you, in your paper, right? But they are not co-authors. And the last but not the least, reference style. And I can say most of the students that are not good in arranging the reference style. The students do not read instruction for authors from the paper. And they just write whatever they think is okay. They just write as a citation style or reference style. But actually, if you write a wrong reference style, your paper may get rejected. Because it shows that you are not a good author, because you do not follow the instruction for author that is stated in the journal. So how you want to get the, the attention of the editor when you do not follow the necessary things, necessary formatting. So some journals, they have APA citation style, and also some others, they have another format of reference listing style. You need to be very careful in this regard, even for your thesis. You know that if you repeat many times the wrong citation, so you may get a major revision. Okay, you can 3 minutes, take rest if you want to drink any coffee. So we want to talk about another interesting part of paper publication. Steps for submission and publication. Imagine that you have completed your paper writing. Imagine that you write your paper completely. So you are going to submit your paper to a journal. Yes, actually this is true. Your paper going through a long procedure. And sometimes after you submit, you expect to receive the result or the feedback from journal's editor immediately. But actually it's not like this. Some students need to wait 1 month. And there were some cases, students wait like 8 months and still they did not receive any reply. You should be very patient. And you need to also wait until to get the reply. Maybe it's rejection or acceptance with major or minor revision. But you are not allowed to withdraw your paper, or you are not allowed to resubmit to another type of journal. It means that you cannot submit one paper in different journals. It is not ethical. Because it needs to go a long procedure until to get accepted. Okay, first, you need to submit your paper. After that, it comes by decision by editors. So, as I told you, editors first look at your abstract. If the editor finds your paper as an attractive or interesting paper, then it's sent to reviewers. Reviewers are professional and experienced lecturers. Okay? So, they read your paper and they give you maybe acceptance, but usually they have minor or major correction. You need to apply minor or major correction. But if you do not follow the rules of the journal, the instruction for the author, or the structure of a manuscript, later on they will give you rejection. But after they give you the revision, you need to apply all correction and resubmit again. And sometimes your paper goes through the second run of revision. But you should be patient because all of these procedures are very long procedure. Okay? And then after that, review by reviewers or editors, and it comes with final decision. Still we have final decision. And if you follow all feedbacks and if apply all corrections, then there is a chance of your paper to get acceptance. And it is very big achievement, you know, that when you see that your paper is accepted, you will become very happy. Am I right? It's very big achievement for all students in PhD level. Because it means that your work is very good enough. So you don't need to be worried for final defense. Okay. So let's see what kind of key factors for editors to decide about your paper. There are different key factors. But here I mentioned the most common key factors that affects on editor's decision making. First, relevancy of paper to journal. So if you want to submit your paper to a journal, you should read first the scope of the journal. Maybe your paper is very good. Maybe you highlighted many important findings, but if the scope is not relevant with your paper, so you may get rejection and it's a kind of wasting time. Research gap and problem statement. You know that it's very important to highlight the gap because your research paper should solve a problem, right? So if there is not any existing problem, what is the point of publishing your paper? The contribution of paper to literatures. Also, editor, look at your literatures. How many literatures that you use? Are you using updated literatures or no? If you use many old references, for sure they will not accept your paper. They are not interested in old references. Okay? And also the practical contribution of paper. They see that what is the new contribution that you have for your paper. And a structure of paper. A structure of paper is very important. As I told you, if you do not follow the guidelines of author, they may reject your paper. But if you follow all of these items here, you have more chances for your paper to be accepted. Okay, here I'm going to present 5 most common reasons of paper rejection, of manuscript rejection. There are many reasons, but these 5 reasons are very common. But before that, I have a good news for you. The good news is all of your supervisors and lecturers in the university with affiliation of associate professor or full professor, at least they have received one-time rejection. So it means that it's very normal and common to get rejection for your paper. It's not a bad thing. Rejection is a step of your improvement. As I told you, getting rejection before going for Viva is much more better than getting rejection in Viva. That one also is not bad, because rejection is the meaning of improvement. It means that you can improve your work, and after applying some feedback, then you can also try to submit your paper in another journal. Okay? So, and it happened a lot. For example, for my case, I received rejection for one journal, but after rejection, usually the author or the editors or reviewers give you some feedback. And then you can apply that feedback, and after that, you can try another journal. And it happened for me. After I tried to submit another journal, I received acceptance from the second journal. Okay. The first main reason of paper rejection is selection of wrong journal. Sometimes you see a journal which is free, or maybe you find the title of the journal very attractive. And then you think, maybe, okay, this journal is about management studies. Okay, so without reading the scope of the journal, you try to submit your paper in that journal. And then, surprisingly, you will receive rejection from that journal. First, do not just read the journal based on the title. You should go and read the scope of the journal. Usually in the first page, they talk about a scope. Okay, so in order to avoid any mistakes in selecting the right journal, you need to carefully read the scope of journal on its homepage and search for the similar articles in the journal. Okay, you need to also look at least 3 to 4 papers that are published by that specific journal. And after you see and read the articles, you will notice, is it relevant to your work or is it very far from your area? Then you can make a decision before going through the submission. Imagine if you submit into a wrong journal, maybe it takes 2 months. After 2 months, you suddenly receive rejection, and you have already wasted 2 months. So before submission, be careful. Okay, the second interesting point, plagiarism. This is another weakness of a student regarding plagiarism. Mistakenly, students think if they just copy-paste from other paper, and after that, just put the citation is good enough. Actually, it's not good. It's still considered as plagiarism. Do you know what is plagiarism first? It's an act of presenting other works as your own. It is a serious offense. But most of the students do not take it serious. I saw many theses or many papers that they forgot to write references for chapter 2 or literature review. How? How you can write many things, many pages without any recitation? So, you should always acknowledge your source of references. And even, you mentioned, okay, I want to publish a paper in a conference. Maybe conference is not serious as journal. Then after that, you think that it's okay, it's acceptable, and publish your other people's finding to a conference. Still, it is an offense. And, sorry. And also, if you want to, okay, it's okay, you can copy and paste, but after pasting, you need to paraphrase. Okay, you need to change the pasted line or a statement. Okay, if your English is not good enough, still it's not a good excuse. You need to ask someone which is professional in English writing in order to help you for paraphrasing your paper. Okay. We have insignificant or false finding in the research result. You know that if you want to have more chances for the paper to get acceptance, you should release the significant results. Do not just easily present the demographic information as a result. You should present the significant results like objective 2, objective 3. The journal accepts only those manuscripts that present an original research study. Those reports with novel work, with contribution. So in order to avoid rejection, you need to search the published literature related to your research topic and see how they present results. Always other published papers can be a good example for you to write a paper, okay? So for my case, maybe I'm interested in one journal, so I go to that journal, then I try to download 3 papers from that journal and put all of them in front of myself, and I try to get the idea, oh, okay, this paper number 1, write this format of abstract, then I follow the same. The way that they report also their results, they use many figures and tables, so it can be a good also guidance for me, so I can get some idea. Publish only those findings which are new or significant to your field of research. Okay, so it means that if your findings is not good enough, maybe you need to apply inferential statistics, or maybe you need to apply more type of analysis in order to make your results more attractive and significant. Okay, technical errors. You see, look at this paper. If you have only 1 or 2 technical errors, you will receive revision. Still, your paper can be accepted. Still, there is a chance of acceptance. But imagine if you repeat many times your errors. So how you can attract the trust of editor? If they see that this author even doesn't follow all these simple or minor matters or aspects in the paper, how the work of this author can be a reliable work? Even it happened for me. When the students submit a thesis to me, when I see that the students do not follow the format of MUSC thesis, the fonts are not very consistent, the size are not same, chapter 2 written by one font, chapter 4 another font. So I can say to myself that this student is not very hard work student. How can I trust the result? How the students contribute the questionnaire and collect the data among 500 respondents? Even if the student doesn't have time or patience to work on the simple parts of their thesis. Okay, so technical error is very important because if you repeat many errors, it increases the chance of rejection. Inconsistency between the abstract and remaining manuscript. This is another one important technical error. So be careful. It's better you write the whole paper, and then after you finish introduction, methodology, then or results, then write your abstract as the last part of your paper. Okay, you know how to, after that you know how to present your main findings in abstract. Absence of a relation between the results and their discussion. It's very important. If even in your PhD thesis you don't know how to relate your discussion with your results or objectives, so you may get also, resubmission or fail in the viva. Same with paper. So you have results, but you should know how to provide a significant discussion for your results. And also contradictory or false data. Because you know that all the reviewers who read your paper, they are very experienced and professional people. When they read your paper, they understand, oh, this data is fake, or this type of statistical analysis is not suitable type of analysis for this type of data. So they will reject your paper. If the conclusion doesn't answer the research questions, Because conclusion is, it is the last part of the paper, some students, they are not patient enough to write a good conclusion. They just write something to fill the spaces. Am I right? But it's very important to go back and check your research questions and objective, then try to write conclusion in line with your research questions. Poor use of language with grammar, spelling, and punctuation errors. Most of the students, foreign students, that speaking English is not the first language, need to submit your paper to some editors before submitting to the journal. Okay, it's very effective for your paper to be accepted or be rejected, you know. In the case if you do not, maybe your work is very good, your results are very significant, but if you do not follow the proper way of English writing, paraphrasing, spelling, or your words are not academic or very simple way of writing, so it's not attractive, right? So it's important to give some expert to edit your paper. All of you, even me, even all the lecturers also need, the help, to get help from some professional people in English writing to edit the paper. The last one is failure to follow instruction for author. You know that I repeat many times because it's very important. You know that when you go to the journal, the instruction for author usually is very lengthy, like 3 pages up to 10 pages, regarding the format of the, for example, paper, which font, what is the spacing, what is the adjustment, what is the size. So sometimes also it's very boring for author to read. Am I right? So I know that most of you do not read the instruction of author very carefully, right? So, but it's very important because it will either delay the peer review process or lead to your manuscript rejection if you do not follow the instruction for authors. So before submission, check whether you have incorporated all the instruction in your writing. You know, because sometimes the students say, okay, I write my paper, I just leave it with this format, and later on, the reviewer give me the feedback. But this is also a wrong perception, because it may cause the paper to be rejected, right? So it's better you follow first all instruction. Sometimes the way that, editors of journal arrange and write the instruction is very complicated or confusing, right? So, for example, you read a lot and you don't understand what that means, 2-column, adjustment, this spacing, I don't know how to make like this. But it's very important to get help. You can send an email to the editors and they will reply you and respond by the email and mention, okay, for example, they will send you the example of, Word file in order to help you to improve the format of your paper. Okay. So, are you tired or no? Because still we have some remaining slides. Do you have any question? You can ask me question now. Then I go through the rest part of my presentation. Yes, this is also important. They mention also in the instruction of authors. They mention all in detailed information, everything, yes. And also, even if they do not mention the UK style or, US style, you can refer to the papers that publish in that specific journal, and then you can follow the same format of writing. Yes, they have only one instruction of authors. Yes, one style, yeah. Not mixture of 2 styles. Especially the high quality journal with a high impact factor. Yes? Okay. Yes, if your paper gets rejected, it means that the journal is not interested to publish your paper. Do not push the journal. Do not push the same journal or do not approach them. Okay, forget about that journal. It's very common. It's very common. Do not get disappointed. Do not, blame yourself. It doesn't mean that your work is not good enough. You know that I went through many items about the reasons of paper rejection. So you can do some improvement, or you can try another journal. You know that the journals, they have Q1, Q2, 3. I know that there are lots of ranking and quality of journal. Maybe you choose a very high quality journal. Okay, as an author that want to try for the first time of paper writing, I advise you to write your paper as technical note, or short paper, not a lengthy paper, and then try to submit first in a conference rather than in a journal with high impact factor. Okay, you just try to submit in a conference, and then it's very good at starting. After that, you can also keep submitting in other journals with higher impact factor. Okay, another matter that usually ignored by a student is about authorship and affiliation. Authorship and affiliation. Who is co-author or who is correspondent author? And do we need, for example, to write the name of all co-authors or corresponding authors? This is an ethical matter. There are some students that they ignore writing the name of supervisors, but they should write the name of all people or researchers who contribute in that research work. Imagine that you supervisors spend too much time on give you many guidance, many feedback, and then if you do not write his name or her name as corresponding author or co-author, so it means that you are not follow the ethical aspects. And affiliation. Also, affiliation is important. Like here, we have first author, second author, and third author. And the affiliation is written in the below. For example, it shows the current positions and institution that, for example, that authors are working. So in a research article, the authors will list their affiliation, usually with a university of research institution. In this example, the author's affiliation is clearly shown on the first page of article. In a research article, you will never have an anonymous author. So you can, and also it's not common to have the name of one author as a researcher. You know why? Imagine that, for example, when you write a paper and write only your name as author and submit your paper to a journal editors. Then when editors go through your paper, you see that, how, this is only one author? How can I make sure that this work is good enough or reliable enough? But if you add the name of your supervisor, which is associate professor or full professor, with many experiences, with many expertise, with affiliation, so it gives more validity to your paper. So also, it has also increased the chance of paper acceptance. So is a co-author is a person who has made a significant contribution to your research and journal article. They also share responsibility and accountability for the result. Corresponding author, this person will handle all correspondence about the article. Usually, students write the name of supervisor, because supervisor is the person that leads students, give the idea of this research title. And so it means that you give this opportunity to your supervisor to be the correspondence of your paper. Okay, now is the time for ICDI Conference 2019, our fourth international conference. So here, I want to introduce our upcoming conference in November. This is a good opportunity for all of us students who do not publish any paper yet, or the students who do not have enough self-confidence to write a paper. So this conference is a good starting for you to write a paper. You can go to the website, NUST/ICDI 2019, okay, and you will see this photo. And you can go through paper submission. You know that here there is keynote speakers, publications. Still, we are updating our website. because the conference will be on November, and you still have time. You go through registration, and here we have a paper submission. You need to enter your information and email, and also upload your paper. But before that, as I told you, read the instruction for authors. You know that they have conference team and author guidelines. For even submission to the conference, you have the author guidelines, and you need to follow the author guidelines. Okay, so for our upcoming conference, we provide you a good opportunity to write a short paper as a technical note. No need to, if for example still you are in the earliest stage of your PhD research, like for example you are doing your writing your chapter 1, okay, it's still good enough. You can follow, because still it is not updated yet, but maybe by tomorrow you can refer to the instruction for author and find about short paper submission. So short paper submission, as I told you, the length is from 2 pages up to 4 pages. And the number of words is less than 300 words, okay? So you just need to highlight the most important or significant items in your research, and what is the problem, and what you want to do regarding your problem statement, how you are going to solve this problem, how you are going to cover the gap. So the format is like this. They will upload later on in the website. You can refer to the website. And if you have any problem, you can refer to me or Dr. Khashayar, who is going to handle the conference. Okay, thank you for listening to this presentation. I hope it encourages you more to publish more papers before going for Viva. And you know that for my case, when I went to my Viva as a PhD student, first of all, I show all my published paper. And then after that, I totally changed the perspective of examiner. And they did not ask me many questions. After look at 5 papers, I published 5 papers, and all of them are in ISI journals. And after that, they told me, okay, you have already everything in the paper, so there are not many questions left. And it saved you, to be honest, it saved you of all the stress and all of this worrying feeling in your Viva session. Okay? So if you have any question, please ask. If you have any idea, any feedback, I will be happy to hear. So it means that it's very clear enough, huh? It's good enough, huh? Conference fee? Submission fee. Yeah, for the, you know that some journals, you need to pay, okay? And then you want to submit your paper. You know, the payment is different because you know that there are some reviewers, they want to read your work, so the journal editor is going to pay them. But also we have some journals with free fee. I mean, they are not charging you anything. So my advice to you, you know that you are here from different areas. Some of you from management, some of you from supply chain, logistic, or IT, or computer. You know that you should find out about most common and relevant journals to your study area. Okay, all of you should know. For example, you should know these 5 journals are the most common journals in my area. Okay, and then if you know this kind of journals, so you have already know how to publish your paper. You know all the information about that journal. Then whenever you want to write your paper, you don't need to spend too much time for searching of the good journal to become confused, okay? And then this is the best way for paper to be accepted and published. Okay, so yes? Sorry? Past work. Okay, we cannot say about how many paper. Okay? Because the number of papers doesn't always show the quality of your work. You can publish one paper with a very good quality and content. And it's very valuable because you will see how many people cite your paper. But some lecturers or some students, they publish 10 papers. So sometimes we cannot say that if you publish 10 papers, it's better than that person who published only one paper. So the type of the journals, the quality of the journals, the impact factor of the journals, there are different criteria that that is important in publishing your paper. Okay, but you know that you can, as I told you, we have one type of paper, we call it review paper. So it means that you can publish one paper with your chapter 2. Because you also went through a critical analysis of literature review, right? So another paper, let's say that if you have 4 objectives, it means that one objective is equal to findings and results, right? And also you need to conduct a methodology, some statistical or some type of analysis in order to achieve objective number 2. And objective number 3, another round of analysis. So you can publish one paper based on each objective. It can happen. Okay, if you don't have any question, I close this speech. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shadi. Now